look back at 2010, a look ahead to 2011 with our rather eclectic group of reporters. Bankaley Thompson of the Michigan Chronicle, Tom Walsh of the Detroit Free Press, Tim Skubic, State Capitol correspondent, and Vicki Thomas of WWJ. And welcome to Spotlight. This is our first show of January, so we're glad to have all of you here. Let's start. What should we keep our eye on in 2011? Let's look ahead for a quick second, then we'll look back. Bankaley Thompson?
Well, obviously in Detroit, I think it's going to be a looming battle between the mayor, Mayor Dave Bing, and the Detroit City Council. I mean, the Charter Commission, as we speak, is sitting through. And
I think the honeymoon is just about over?
I think it's about over because the mayor wants to retain control of appointing department heads, and councilors say, no, we need to balance that power. So there's going to be, you know, a tug of war, if you will, in terms of, you know, who has more control when the new charter emerges, as the Charter Commission says.
All right, Tom Walsh, what should we keep our eye on?
Three big stories, I think. Three big question marks. Chrysler, Ford's in good shape, I think. Everybody realizes GM's gotten through the bankruptcy, through the IPO, looks pretty solid. Chrysler's still a big question mark. Most of the new product still yet to come. Story number two, housing. Without housing, the economic recovery sputters. Until people know what their house is worth, until there's some stability there, governments don't know how much tax revenue they have coming in. And, you know, this Hamtramck bankruptcy talk is only going to be the first of many if the housing situation doesn't resolve itself. And then one last thing, we have the Pistons and the ownership situation hanging over us.
Where are they going to be?
Where are they going to be? And, you know, it's more than a sports story, because if it's the Ilitches, when's the new stadium going to get built downtown? If it's not the Ilitches, what happens? Interesting stories yet to play out.
If it's the Ilitches, is that too much power in one family?
It's a lot of power.
Or is that good?
Well, it's a lot of power. It's good. It's good for them. It's good if you worry that Ticketmaster controls the prices of everything. It's good to have somebody with clout who can't be whipsawed on the venues. But who knows? I think the Ilitches have been good owners. They've put money into the teams. People feel good and safe with the Ilitches. The other ones are big question marks, whether it's Tom Gores from L.A. or some fuzzy Middle Eastern, you know, conglomerate.
All right. Tim Skubic, your perch is there in Lansing, and you keep a close eye on it.
This is an easy one. Right. New governor, new legislature, same old problem. Budget deficit, $1.7 billion. Can these guys do any better than the folks that are leaving town or just left town? And it is a question mark.
Big question mark in your mind?
Mm-hmm.
All right, all right. Vicki Thomas?
Oh, Detroit works. Will the mayor be able to get it to work? Will he be able to convince residents that this is a great idea, that this is a good plan to consolidate population in about 9 different neighborhoods? Or will he get a lot of pushback? A lot is riding on this. I think it'll be, you know, the crown of his administration if he can pull it off, and if it flops, then I think you know, that second term may be in jeopardy. Also, I think, as Bankaley indicated, the relationship between the city council, I think the honeymoon is definitely over. Look for the cable commission to end that whole issue of whether or not putting council on cable 3 times a week versus 5 times, or 2 times versus 5. That is headed to court, more than likely.
All right, very good. All right, let's take a look back at 2010. Governor Granholm did a ton of exit interviews. What do you think her legacy is going to be, Tim?
It's not the one she wanted.
No?
we know that for sure, don't we?
We know for sure, yeah.
I mean, you know, she came into office in that first year, and she always thought that there would be the cyclical thing in Michigan that we've all lived through. Bad times, good times, roller coaster. The roller coaster never went back up. It stayed down. And so I think she was shocked by that. Her legacy will be yet to be written. I think, as with most governors, it's long after the fact that there's more polish on it. Right now, she's down in the polls. She's less popular than people that cover the Capitol and used car salesmen, okay? Which is just awful, all right? But I think in time, I take her at her word that some of the seeds she planted will begin to grow. We see some signs of that, but it's not there yet. And I think she's excited about the new guy coming in. She wishes that she had the leadership that he's going to have, because she had problems with the guys in the legislature the last 8 years.
Yeah. Tom?
I think I agree with a lot of what Tim said. I think Rick Snyder is lucky that he is coming in with 6 or 7 months of job growth, starting to inch up. It's not great, but
timing is everything.
She was coming in when things were headed down, and you're right. I think that she and Snyder are getting along very well. She had the Snyder family over to the governor's house the other night. They have kids the same age. The transition, by all accounts, has gone very smoothly, and I think that she's wishing him well. She's a class act. She's handled the office with decorum. I mean, when you think of, what happened in Detroit, a lot of people thought, boy, Kwame Kilpatrick and Jennifer Granholm are really eloquent, dynamic leaders. And what happened in Detroit versus what's happened in Lansing, whatever the criticism of what she didn't get done to fix the economy, I think she goes out with her decorum intact. We can be pretty well assured that the feds aren't rummaging around in her papers, and as Tim said, we won't know about the long-term impact of the battery investments or film credits or
quite a
lot of things for a long time.
When we come back, I want to pick up with Vicki Thomas and Bankole, get your perception of Governor Granholm and what you think her legacy is, and then we'll start talking about Mr. Snyder, Governor Snyder. We'll be right back. We hope you stay with us. And welcome back to Spotlight. Before we went to the break, I had put the question out there about Granholm's legacy, and I didn't give Bankole a chance to weigh in on it, or Vicki Thomas. Bankole, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think I want to make a quick departure from Tim Skibick. I think, the governor's legacy, I think, is divided. When it is written, and history, it's been written, I think, and it will be written, is that, the economy, she presided over a dismal economy here in Michigan, but at the same time, that economy could not be detached or divorced from the dismal economy of the Bush administration, and the debilitating impact that has had on Michigan. So I think to some extent, and I think we also have to put it in perspective, that she dealt with a legislator that did not want to walk with her, that basically held her hostage and almost brought the state to a shutdown. So I think when the history is written...
And how much of that responsibility does she bear?
Well, she bear the responsibility, because at some point, the troops in the House, the Democrats, could not work with her, because I don't know if she was a good commander-in-chief who could actually get the troops together. So I think it speaks to her legislative abilities, even if she had any at the time. So I think, her legacy is divided, but she would tell you, like any person who is in leadership position, I did the best I could, but I had to deal with this animal called the lawmakers in Lansing, who basically held her hostage on a number of things. So what is going to happen is, it'll be interesting to see how this very group of lawmakers play out with Snyder, just like what Obama...
And hold your part, we're going to get to Snyder in 1 second. Let me let Vicki weigh in, and then we'll jump over and we'll talk about Snyder coming in and what to expect.
Well, Chuck, I think she'll be remembered as a governor who stuck to her guns during some difficult times economically, and she had a plan. She stuck to that plan. She wanted to diversify the economy. She traveled all over the place to try to bring jobs here, as thousands and thousands of jobs were leaving. Now, when you look at Detroit,
she never had a warm, fuzzy relationship with Detroit, though.
Right. That's what I was just going to say. When you look
had a better relationship with Detroit, right?
Yeah.
Stim?
Yes. No question about it.
People in Detroit will probably look back and say, well, what did she do for us? And maybe that answer might be not a whole lot.
All right.
Can I just pick up on a point?
Yes, you can.
It's a good point. The relationship with the legislature was a major problem. She said she didn't understand the psychology of negotiating in the legislature. She said, as an attorney, I did deals, I was in court, but dealing with these guys in the legislature, completely different thing. So she came in without that experience, and here I thought was a very telling relationship that she had with the legislature. She said, I'm at my best in a meeting where I'm in the room with a pen and getting things done. Well, you know what? The governors can't go in a room with a pen and get things done unless other folks are in the room with her. She struggled with that. She never really got that connection of how to work that deal like a John Engler did, or a Jim Blanchard, or a Bill Milliken, all of whom had legislative experience, and she had zero. And I think she suffered as a result of that, and she would tell you that herself.
And I think it raises questions in terms of whether, they should put a team of rivals together. When you think about this legacy of this governor, who would you remember in this administration that was, in fact, a lead negotiator or who was out there trying to, talk to legislators and so forth? So it almost seemed as if perhaps the governor did almost everything on her own. I don't remember who you can say was part of the team, just like Snyder's putting up his team now together.
Well, she gave lip service to John Cherry as the lieutenant governor to go in and do the heavy lifting, which he did on occasions. But the popular wisdom in our town was she didn't use him enough. That there was only room on stage for one star, and she was it. And I think she suffered as a result of that.
All right. Tom Walsh, is it safe to say that the business community is excited about Rick Snyder coming in? And if so, are they justified?
Yes, I think the business community is pleased. They have one of their own, a guy who understands business, who has a rational approach to fiscal matters and will go at the structural things like the budget, tax policy that's fair to all. But he doesn't come in as sort of a fire-breathing, I don't believe in the Fed or all government is bad. He's not coming in with a lot of, I don't think, ideological baggage that might scare some. So I think people think they're getting a pragmatist, and I think they're right. Now, to Tim's point about no experience with the legislature, well, here we go again.
Yeah. Right,
Exactly.
because he doesn't have that. Let's rush to a commercial break. When we come back, I want to pick up on that because I want to talk about some of the people that he's appointed, and is that going to put him in good state with the legislature, or will make not a bit of difference whatsoever? We'll be right back. Stay with us. Governor Rick Snyder, he's made a ton of appointments. During the campaign trail, we kept saying, who's the team? Who's the team? Well, we now know who the team is. What do you think of the team?
He calls it the A-team. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I think the telling part in the appointments is that he realizes that he needs experience around him. Here's a guy who ran, and the people responded to, I'm a Lansing outsider, look at me. I'm a non-career politician, look at me. What does he do the first thing he comes in town? Finds career politicians and those that have been in town for 20 years. Smart man.
Both Democrats and Republicans.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is that going to be a feather in his cap? Is that going to help him, or is that going to lead him into problems?
Look, at the people in town, the anxiety level was off the charts. The temperature has now come down because he has surrounded himself with people that know how to play the game. And they can, if he listens, here's the question, will he listen to the advisors who have been there before? My guess is I think he does.
If you look at the voters, I mean, they're so fed up with the partisan bickering, and and I think he's surrounding himself with people who can get in there and negotiate from different sides of the aisle and whatnot. So I think it'll benefit him.
Yeah, is there the potential that his greatest opposition may come from within his own party?
I think so. I think it's the combination of, can he bring the whole party together, or is there going to be, a right-wing base that's going to bristle? For example, if he really wants to go after prison spending, okay, can you, let that many people out on the street, and is the right wing of the party going to go for that? So I think he's going to have some problem in his own party. And then the Democrats, they're going to want a little payback after, what the Republicans did for Granholm. They're not going to go walk lockstep just because you put Andy Dillon in Treasury. And a lot of people think Andy Dillon's more of a Republican than he is a Democrat anyway.
Right.
So, I think there's some real questions about this team, starting with Dillon in Treasury. The budget's the big issue. Andy is a good idea guy, but along with Granholm and Bishop, wherever you want to assign the blame, they were all part of gridlock and not getting things done before. So he hasn't exactly delivered bipartisan harmony before, so I'm not sure until we see this team in action.
Bankley, do you anticipate that he'll have a good relationship with Mayor Bing in the city of Detroit?
Well, I think he'll have a good relationship with the city of Detroit. I want to think so because his victory party
Could this
was
be a
held.
Coleman Young, Bill Milliken type of relationship?
Well, it depends on what he does. The victory night was held in Detroit, which was symbolic. It could have been moved to Grand Rapids. You know, he sets up his economic team. Judge Jackson from the Economic Growth Corporation is a member of that team. He sets up the public safety panel to look at public safety across the state of Michigan. The police chief of Detroit is a part of that. So I think he's bringing Detroit along. And I think his biggest opposition is going to come from within the party, the extreme angle of the party, because I think he has decided to abandon the garbage or the baggage of the culture wars, and he doesn't want to be tied by that. So I think, you know, it looks as if he's going to govern from the middle, but it remains to be seen.
Spot on. Look, when's the last time we saw a Republican go in outstate Michigan and say, we've got to do something for the city of Detroit? You have to go back 40 years to former Governor Milliken. That took guts. You know, it's one thing to say it within 8 Mile. It's another thing to say it in Ontonagon. And he did, but I'm interested to see, he says, I'm going to be a partner with Detroit. Does that include money? You can be a partner without money, can't you? I want to know, show me the money. Show me the money if indeed he wants to go there. And I'm not sure he does.
Yeah, but the money's going to be key. I mean, the mayor's going to want to see the money for these projects.
Yeah, he's going to want to see the money, but does the state have the money? That's going to be the big issue. And I think he realizes that Detroit is the major city in this state. And if Detroit fails, so does the rest of the state. So I think he really buys into that, and I think he has the desire, but whether or not that will translate into some benefits for the city of Detroit is the question that remains to be answered.
He runs the risk of alienating the base of his party. If he alienates the base on issues like Detroit, and I also think in the new year he will be asking for new revenue by closing tax loopholes. There is a non-starter with conservatives. They didn't run on that platform.
You really think they'll come back and ask for
I
some type of
believe he
new
does.
revenue?
I've been wrong before, but I think on this one...
Only once or twice.
Only once, yes, and that was on my off hours. No, I think he does. And he opened the door last week to the possibility of looking at loopholes and closing those. It is a source of revenue, which is not a tax hike, and it can be done.
And we'll hurry right back here for our final segment, and I want to weigh in on some business questions for Tom Walsh. We'll be right back. Tom Walsh, General Motors, completely out of the woods now. You've been going into 2011. You think they're in really good shape to move forward, or you think there's something there that hasn't been reported on that we need to keep our eye on?
Nobody's completely out of the woods. It's a very tough industry. It's going to be a tough industry. We're still at very anemic sales levels, 12 million U.S. cars and trucks a year versus 16 or 17 million a few years ago. So everybody's got to fight for every sale. So, but yes, their balance sheet is in good shape. I think the management has been restructured. And really, when you think back 2 years, what's happened here was not just a tourniquet that worked. This was a miracle. What happened to General Motors, the fact that General Motors and Chrysler are still here, they're making money, Ford's making good chunks of money, and you know, just in the previous 4 years, General Motors lost $82 billion when sales were good. What's happened here is a miracle, and they're in good, solid shape. I think they should be, you know, they're selling as many cars with 4 brands as they were with 8, and the glide path looks good, but nothing's guaranteed.
What does Rick Snyder, Governor, need to say in his State of the State to make the business community feel really good about him and his administration?
I'm on your side. We'll redo this tax to make it more palatable. 6% or whatever the rate is, flat tax. It does have some cachet in the business community. Get rid of that surcharge. The business community will love that. They don't like giving money to the government for obvious reasons. So I think he can raise their expectations, but here's the danger. He can raise them too high. People are going to demand some payback on that, and as we have suggested throughout this program, getting this stuff through the legislature is not a walk through the park. He needs 56 votes, he needs 20 in the Senate, and he's not there yet, but he'll set the tone that the business community, I think, will love, and they say, well, this is refreshingly different, and it will not be a cheerleading speech like we have heard in the past. He's used that term. It'll be lay the facts on the table like a business guy. I think he'll bring a spreadsheet. And maybe his 10-point plan.
Vicki, anything in particular?
Well, I
Does
think
he need to reach out to Detroit in some
I
ways?
think he really does, even though I know you guys think he'll alienate members of his own party. But I think he really does need to do that because the city of Detroit, they're in a tough spot. It's the biggest city in the state. I mean, you can't just write off a section of your state and pretend that it doesn't exist. I mean, so I think he does have to extend that olive branch in the speech.
Mark Hackle joining the Big Four. Will he be a good fit?
I think he
Not
will.
sure.
I mean, I think
He has a good relationship with L. Brooks Patterson.
Right, and I think he fits in with these guys. I mean, I can't wait to see him up on the island and see how they all banter back and forth. But I think he'll fit in very well.
He needs to come down to the legislature?
Yeah, he should have been there yesterday. And Mayor Bing is a question. I can't count. I can count on one finger the times I've seen the mayor in the town. And that's a frustrating thing. There are some people that have urged him to, but you know what? He's not a typical politician. This guy does not play the game like everybody else. He's a little bit above it, a lot of people think, and maybe he ought to get down and get in the trenches and rub some elbows with these guys.
And I think there's some weakness there because I think you have to understand the art of compromise, but you also have to understand how to negotiate. But then you can be naive of the political institution itself because I think there's a difference when you run your own company than when you go in government. I mean, in government, you're not the only one that's signing the check. There are layers of checks and balances that people you need to talk to. In a corporation, you are the only one that signs a check. Now, in government, there's accountability at every level. So I think that sometimes that's the difficulty when business people transition from a company into government because a whole different institution that requires more and raises more questions than, you know, when you're running your own company.
And ditto for
I think like Snyder, though, Bing is surrounded by a lot of people who do have that experience and who do know how to play the game.
Yeah, but you got to send the boss in. Kenny Cockrell, the day after he became mayor, was in Lansing, and the people loved it. He went to the caucus and said, oh, wow, we got some love. You know, it was good stuff. Didn't work, didn't get him anything, but everybody felt good. I think the mayor needs to be more assertive to establish, he's got an opening now, to establish a beachfront, a beachhead in Lansing and try to get something as a result.
Well, I think he's also trying to figure out what he needs. And, I mean, he's in there. He has to, you know, peel back the layers of the onion to see what the heck kind of mess he has on his hands. And to a great degree, I mean, he's done that already. And then I think that's when you go to Lansing, when you say, and show some improvement.
He's going to take a hit on revenue sharing.
Before you go to Lansing.
Revenue sharing is on the table to be cut.
That.
He knows that.
Yeah, he knows that.
And the stimulus money is gone.
Right. Revenue's
So
down.
All right, and that's going to have to be the last word. We are all out of time. Vicki Thomas, WWJ, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Tim Skubic,
Thanks, Chuck.
State Capitol correspondent. We appreciate you joining us as well, and the host of Off the Record, and columnist at the Detroit Free Press, Tom Walsh.
Happy New Year.
And Banker Thompson, senior editor at the Michigan Chronicle. Thank you for joining us, and Happy New Year to all of you. And we want to thank you at home for joining us. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more Newsmakers in the Spotlight. We hope you have a great week.